Welcome to Two Finger Tuesday, a production of the James McGee Show. Conversations are just easier had over a good old two-finger. So pour yourself a glass of your favorite booze and join your host, James McGee, for a drink and some real talk.
Welcome back to the James McGee Show, Two Finger Tuesday. I am your host. I am James McGee. So we have Joe Collins. Don't know if Tom Wells is jumping on or not. He's having dinner with his daughter, which that's great, man. But if he jumps on, then he'll be here. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. So let's talk about, Joe. I want to get into your adventures a little bit. I see you're in your new house, so we talk about that a little bit. But of course, as always, we're going to talk about what we're drinking. So why don't you start tonight?
Well, I don't have any whiskey in the house, so I'm drinking a Saint Chateau Michelle Cabernet 2020. I always go to the Cabs.
I like
Chateau Saint Michelle. Yeah, it's a good wine, man. What's interesting is that we visited that winery twice. It's a beautiful place in northern Washington State. They have an outside amphitheater where they have huge concerts, like Michael Bublé plays there and stuff. You can go for the whole day. But I had some wine tastings there the last time, and I just wasn't thrilled with what they had there, but I really like buying it off the shelf. So it's good.
Hey, I like, at the $20 price point, it's a really good wine. I drink that. One of the cousins, the restaurant I go to, they serve it there. Mm-hmm. So we'll get a bottle sometimes. So I am drinking Peg Leg Porker, of course, and I'm drinking out of my official James McGee Show whiskey glass from engravedinusa.com. Rich Crummon, our friend. So I'm drinking Peg Leg Porker. It is a Tennessee whiskey. It is distilled in Nashville. I'm drinking it tonight because a friend of mine bought me this bottle when she was in Nashville probably a year or so ago. She's got a really important day tomorrow, big day for her tomorrow. She would kill me if I said her name or I said what she's got going on. But she listens, so she knows what I'm talking about. So we're going to give her the James McGee Show toast and good luck to her. Kill it. So on Two Finger Tuesday, Joe, we dedicated to mostly law enforcement, and we stay away from politics mainly. But I'm going to tell you, I just have to tonight, man. I just have to. And like I tell you off camera, I think the vice president pick is good for the Republican ticket. And as a Republican, I like it because I think that we're going to win. But what if we don't? This is scary. This is going to be the most liberal law enforcement, cop-hating administration ever. And before Joe Biden lost his mind, I heard him speak at a police week. I believe his dad was a cop. And back before he lost his mind and went just completely bonkers, he was a moderate guy. And I think that's why Obama had picked him as a vice president to get a balance. But they're making they're not disguising their stance at all. And it's scary. The two most liberal, Kamala Harris is the most liberal senator ever. And this guy, and I'm going to try to not be really disrespectful and ugly, but this guy's a circus clown. He is a complete clown. He is the most liberal and worst governor in the nation. He completely bagged the George Floyd, the riot. Now he's a sergeant major in the National Guard, and they're going to tout that. Well, you were the commander in chief of the National Guard, and you completely fumbled. You fumbled the riots. And so, like I said, we try to keep politics away from this show a little bit, but hey, this is important for law enforcement. And, being apolitical these days doesn't work because for cops, we can say, hey, you got civil service, you got union, you stay apolitical. Well, you know what? That doesn't work anymore because cops have never been under attack, and the law enforcement profession has never been under attack like it is now. So, Joe, I think we got to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think that the groups are actually making that decision. I know that we were out in Michigan not that long ago at the Michigan Police Officers Association conference, and they came out and endorsed President Trump for president, and that was that their governor was in contention too for a little while to decide whether or not that she may have been the VP pick. But like we talked off camera, is that if you take sides out of it, however, if you view Republican or Democrat or whatever, running for this office also has to be a strategy. And choosing a governor of a state that was never going to turn red, and not to have somebody that doesn't really have a national platform or a national, look at this guy.
I know. You see a big old head.
You're not going to believe this. I have to I'm having to censor myself here because I have the worst case of chiggers that I got at the railroad. Laura is currently painting me with nail polish to kill them.
We could have went all night without hearing that.
Yeah. So I'm on here without a shirt on, so I'm trying to be very careful with your audience.
Yeah. Let's stay just head only.
There are things that our listening audience does not have to. Yeah. Now they're going to visualize this, and it's going to be drama. Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way: they like to go into your waistband and your.
No, let's not go there anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Joe, what were you saying?
That when you're running for a national office, the presidency, picking someone from a state that is in play, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe being able to influence that tipping toward your party is much more strategically minded than what they just did.
And it made no sense strategically because Josh Shapiro, I'm going to just be honest, he scared me because Pennsylvania is up for grabs. Minnesota's not up for grabs. Pennsylvania is up for grabs, and Josh Shapiro's not, he's not a conservative. I wouldn't even say he's a moderate, but he's definitely not Tim Walz, or as they call him in Minnesota, I found out, Tampon Tim.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. Listen to this shit. This man had a law passed that 4th grade to 12th grade public schools in the boys and girls bathroom all had to have tampons.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that just shows you where we're headed. We wonder why we're raising a weak society and we have men who are not men anymore. So this is the problem. And Tom, I was saying a little while ago that we try on Two Finger Tuesday not to get too political, and we keep it mostly law enforcement based. But the problem is, Tom, is that we better stop being so apolitical because unions, civil service, and all that. And I came from a political environment. We had none of that protection. I was very involved in politics. But you don't have any kind of protection against this this movement, this woke movement. And so cops and organizations like the IACP, the National Sheriff's Association, have to start getting, or no, they do get involved, but you got to go. Like I did a little video blog today. It's all hands on deck and it's full throttle, man. So what do you came from a municipality, didn't get involved in politics. You were not a political, you were not elected. What are your thoughts on cops having to be more politically active, or at least more educated and on what the issues are?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always very smart to know both sides of the spectrum politically and to know what the important issues are. A lot of I think one of the things that really bothers me about our country right now is how volatile people are when you try to express an opinion. And of course, when we're in our police, situations, we're not, we don't take sides. We're always, the idea is that we are, enforcing the law or mediating situations, giving both sides the opportunity to explain their situation, and then try to mediate a satisfactory outcome as best as we can. We're not there to say you're wrong or you're right based on your views. It's again, it comes down to, we have to make decisions based on the circumstances. And what I am so concerned about, like the example that I'll give you from this week for me was that whole situation at the Olympics where that boxer, that the way I read it was a biological male, beat the crap out of a female, and she had to forfeit her match. And I generally stay off of Facebook when it comes to political stuff, but I just was really bothered by that. And I just said, this is such a travesty. And somebody that I know posted a response basically saying, well, I don't understand how this other guy, who I forget which country he's from, who was able to compete in the Olympics, who apparently is a convicted rapist. And I'm like, what does that have to do with it at all? What I said? I mean, I agree that guy shouldn't be in there either. But the point is, what, and then they basically said, well, that biological male was actually born a female and all this other. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to argue about it. That guy clearly looks like a guy, and he beat the crap out of somebody that he was physically superior to. I don't care how you slice it. If you have male hormone, you are going to be stronger than a female. That is not being sexist. That's not being chauvinistic. That's a fact. And in general, I mean, yeah, can females bulk up and do all that? Yes. But the point is that we're so afraid to say what things are, is I guess the long-winded way of making my point is. And as law enforcement officers, we have to be able to say, this is what it is. It's the whole thing about the Latin words prima facie. It is what it is on its face. And it seems like, especially in law enforcement leadership, people are afraid to say, this is what it is on its face. We're always so worried about offending people. We got to stop that.
No, you're right. And yeah, it has nothing to do with, when you're on the job and you're doing your job, you should police non-bias. And I know I always did, and you did, and Joe did. But we have skin in the game, a lot of skin right now. And it's dire straits when this, I mean, it's they just took their cards and just threw them on the table.
Yep.
We know what they're doing now. And I've got a personal opinion because of what the Democrat Party, my whole family back in the day, my mom didn't speak to me. I was a registered Republican. And the reason why I registered Republican when I was 18 was because in my civics class, we took a test. And if these were your views, you're a Republican. If these were your views, you're a Democrat. Well, when my voter registration card came in, and my mom saw I was a Republican, she didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. My family were Union Democrats, but that's the blue dog Democrats. Some days are gone.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party is just, it's totally, all the Democrats that I know now, my mom, my uncles on them, they're all Republicans now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because they don't believe in that. And my personal opinion is the reason why they didn't go with Shapiro, Joe, is because he's Jewish. Mm. And the Democratic Party is so anti Israel and so anti-Jewish. That's why. Well, that is dumb on a strategic. I like it on a strategic end.
Yeah.
But when it shows, it just, to me, it shows their cards are just completely on the table.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and I think, and just kind of commenting on a couple of things that you said. So the IACP, it's an international organization. So making a political statement about what's happening in the U.S. really, in my personal opinion, isn't appropriate for that.
That makes sense. That does make sense.
And you also have people on both sides that have different belief systems. And what you need to, in those type of organizations, you really have to be Switzerland. And I'll use an example. And I know that, did you guys go to the conference in Quebec City for the FBI National Academy?
No.
Okay. So we were there, and I was actually in the leadership roles within the state of Wisconsin at that time. So I was in the chapter presidents meetings and stuff, and they were there, and they were voting to have like a T-shirt for the next year's conference. And one of the groups that was doing it, they wanted to have like this big U.S. flag on it, and then touting the next conference. And I'm like, and I'm sitting back, and I'm sitting next to people from Canada. I'm like, the FBI National Academy Association is an international association. This is not a United States association. Yeah. So you've got to take a look at who you represent. So
no, I agree with you on that. That's a very valid point.
So we have to be careful, and even in what I do now is that we try to be Switzerland, because I don't want to have anybody believe that for somebody that's asking for help that I have an opinion one way or another. All I care about is the fact you picked up the phone and I'm on the phone with you. So there's a need here, right? So we need to be able to take care of people. But as far as taking off that hat and for the community, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid for who they just chose, because he is obviously it's going to be an all-out war against police.
Who did they choose? I didn't even know.
Oh, Tim Walz from Minnesota.
Oh, you did say that earlier. Sorry.
A disaster, a complete disaster. Joe, I that's a really good point. My only issue with that is, law enforcement is a very strong fraternity. And how many times, even though y'all were not political, y'all were appointed chiefs of police, how many times did people call you and say, "Hey, who else should I vote for this?" Mm-hmm. You know why they did that? Because your opinion matters to most people. Yep. 80% of people are pro law enforcement. Well, when they know, now, Louisiana is different. Louisiana Sheriff's Association is very, is a very big lobbying. All Louisiana Sheriff's Association is a lobbying organization, which is what we need. When people know that law enforcement is supporting a certain candidate, it means something. Mm-hmm. So, who's the voice? If these organizations like the FBI, the National Sheriff's Association, they're going to endorse Trump. There's no doubt about that. But these organizations don't put their nuts out there for what. And the point that you had was good reason. Then how do we let people know that law enforcement supports this candidate?
It has to be on a local level.
Yeah.
Because when you're saying that, and what we really were reflecting is how is it impacting you where you currently are at that moment, right?
Yeah.
And you're not having somebody from California call you and say, "Who are you going to vote for, James?" It's like, it's your hometown people and why, right? So
yeah, we're going to be red no matter what anybody says. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, the LSA puts their Louisiana Sheriff's Association puts their stamp on something. It's a really, really big deal. Mm-hmm. So, what about Ohio, Tom? Is that a swing state?
Well, it is a swing state, and I'll tell you why. Ohio, when you look at it on the map, is a deeply, deeply red state, but you have the population centers of Toledo, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, all which have tended, well, Cincinnati used to be totally red. Cincinnati is almost completely shifted to blue now. Really? The surrounding counties around Cincinnati are all red, deeply red. But the city of Cincinnati is now a blue city, as is Cleveland historically, because they're industrial base and unions like you were talking about before, and Toledo, another industrial town with a lot of unions because of the automakers. So those, and Columbus, Ohio, which tends to be, since you have the Ohio State University there, that is also a blue city. So you have the huge population centers of Ohio being able to, basically equal the votes of rural Ohio. And so Ohio can go either way for sure.
Well, I only know about 5 people from Ohio, and all of y'all are red. So I love Ohio. That's the only 5 I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like when you go out to the area that I work in on the railroad, all you see out there are Trump signs everywhere. There are all kind of variety of signs, but they're all Trump.
Well, so is it a swing state?
Is Ohio a swing state?
Yeah.
For sure, because the problem is you have so many.
It could go red for the election.
It could, but it could also go blue because you have so many people living in the population centers that you can get where they outnumber the rural part of Ohio.
Do you think Vance being on the ticket makes a difference?
I think that was an excellent pick.
That was strategy.
Yes,
that's exactly what Joe was talking about. Yeah,
I think that he brings a sort of a down home goodness type of guy, someone who is relatable to people. And I think, and when I first jumped on, you were talking about strategy. That was an excellent strategy to pick someone from Ohio. Ohio for sure is a swing state.
Yeah. Well, that's what, if you've got a group of candidates that are pretty much evenly like spaced, right? What you're going to do is you're going to pick the person that's going to give you somewhere that is a question mark,
right?
Rather that there's no question about. So it's just interesting. So
yes, I was a little. I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised at first that he picked him because he's kind of a freshman congressperson here, or senator. Isn't he a senator?
Senator.
Yeah. And he was only elected in whenever the last big contested election was. That was what, 2 years ago. The 22, and he unseated, or he ran, and the Republicans put a huge amount of money to get him elected here. And I was a little taken aback when he became, all of a sudden, he's the vice presidential candidate. But again, from the research I've done and from the people I've talked to, everybody seems to think that was a really good pick. So, yeah. And he's actually from Middletown, which is only about 5 miles from where I live. So interesting.
There it is.
Okay, I knew he was from Middletown, but I didn't realize it was that. Middletown is in the Cincinnati metro.
Yeah, it's actually directly between Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio. Yeah, and that's.
Is his district part of the city of Cincinnati?
No, he would represent the area around basically like Lebanon, Ohio, and Monroe, Ohio, in that area.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. There's about Cincinnati and Dayton are kind of like Dallas, Fort Worth, but they're not considered a single metroplex. But it's essentially, there's a little bit of rural in between there, but it's pretty much two metroplexes that are almost joined together.
Yeah. Well, I've been involved in redistricting on a local level, and it depends on who's in charge and the way. I mean, they cut here and there. It's not as cut and dry as people think. It's like you divide and all this up. No, you're not. You're piecing here. It's all strategy. That's all it is.
Well, that's just it. Is whoever's in charge is going to try to keep the chair.
Yeah.
When I went through the NA, that was actually one of our instructors was explaining that is that the job of the politician is to stay in their seat.
That's all it is.
And they're going to do whatever they can to keep the chair.
Yes.
And that's why nothing gets done because, it's just like, I don't understand the rationale of congressmen. Now, senator to be in 6-year terms makes sense. A congressman, 2-year terms, all they do is run for office.
Yep.
That's all they're ever doing is running for office.
Yes.
So everything, because every time, and I worked for a 20-year sheriff, had 5 4-year terms. And if we had to do something that was going to be unpopular, we did it right after he got reelected.
Yep.
He went unopposed, got reelected. Hey, we got 4 years to recover.
Right.
Well, you got 2 years terms, you have no time to recover. It just changes the game so much.
Right. Yep. No, it was 2-year terms for sheriffs in Wisconsin for a very long time.
Oh, I wouldn't work for a sheriff. I wouldn't be a sheriff over there.
Well, then they switched it to 4. But like you said, it's like you're campaigning for a year, and then you're thanking everybody for a year, and then you're campaigning again.
You have no time to recover because after one time we had our courtroom security was just a debacle, man. A bunch of good guys, but they were. I think the average age of the courtroom security officers were 97. And so after the election, the sheriff gave us carte blanche to go in and revamp it. And some of these guys had to retire. They couldn't meet the standard. Well, they were mad for about a year. Then about a year and a half, 2 years later, they were friends again. So that's just, it's a whole different ball game when you have that. When you have 6 years, man, you can really piss the people off and recover.
Yeah, that's the old analogy that everybody wants change, but no one wants to change.
No, and our saying was, my sheriff's saying was, half my friends want this and the other half wants this. And I just want what my friends want.
Yeah.
Think about that statement.
Yeah, so.
Talk about Switzerland. Talk about Switzerland. So
talking
right,
about Switzerland, I was watching the Olympics. I love the Olympics, so it's just one of those cool things. So obviously the boxing thing, and I was just looking. They just had this big blowout meeting because the International Boxing Association showed up at the meeting at the Olympics.
Wow!
And they had all of the test results from those two boxers, and they tested positive to be males.
Really?
So they had all of the interest, but who decides? The Olympic Committee decides who gets to play in the Olympics, right? Because the other day, Puerto Rico was playing the United States in basketball. Now, wait a minute. Puerto Rico has their own basketball team.
Which is crazy because they're part of the United States.
Puerto Rico is part of the United States. So I asked, I got a text group that I'm on. I was like, why does Puerto Rico have a basketball team? And they're like, I don't know. Puerto Rico's not a country. And I went in and I Googled it. And guess who decides who gets to be in the Olympics?
The Olympic Committee.
Exactly. So they decide what countries are countries.
Okay, so let me get y'all's opinion on this. So speaking of Switzerland, did you see the guy from Switzerland that broke the world record in the pole vaulting?
Yes.
Mondo Duplantis.
The guy that missed the pole vault from Italy?
No, not the guy that hung it on his schlong. No. Not the French guy, but the guy from Switzerland who broke his own world record.
Yeah.
So he is representing Switzerland. He is from Lafayette, Louisiana, which is 60 miles from me. So his mom is from Switzerland. I don't know if she has dual citizenship. He was born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana. Went to LSU, and then he spends. I don't know if he's got dual citizenship, probably because if his mom probably does. What's y'all's opinion on? And I don't know why. Now, one of my friends who's a local judge here is good friends with them, and he's actually in France with them at the Olympics. So I don't know why he has chosen to represent Switzerland. Some people go represent another country. I've seen people go play on teams because, I knew a softball player that played locally, and she represented Italy. She didn't make the American team, so she went play on the Italy team, which is fine. What's y'all's take on that? So my wife's I'll tell you her take on it. She's pissed. She's pissed if where you're from and the country that supported you throughout, that's where you should be playing. What's y'all's take on that?
I would agree with that. I mean, I like that idea, because again, I think it comes down to there's got to be some, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the word for that, but I mean, if you're born in the United States and you're of Italian descent, you should play for the United States.
Yeah.
But the other one that always got in my crawl was for example, years ago, I don't know if they still do this or not, but the U.S. basketball team was made up of professional basketball players, and I'm like, is that really appropriate to have people that are being paid professionally to do a sport to come and be Olympians? Because they're going to be the best at the game. I don't know.
Well,
there is also here's something else in play is each country pays their athletes a certain number of dollars for each one of the medals. I just looked it up. The U.S. he would get $37,500. So Switzerland's not a big deal difference. It's $44K. Yeah. But Chinese Taipei, you bring home a gold medal to Chinese Taipei, you're getting $720,000.
Holy smokes! I didn't know that.
Singapore, $737,000. Philippines, $200,000. Morocco, $225,000. Kyrgyzstan.
Wow.
That is life-changing money in some of these countries.
Yes, it is.
Well, what's not being said, what may be a decider, because like we talked about before, they're in the money business. So what I'm thinking is that Switzerland may support him like throughout the year. I know we support our athletes, but you got some countries, they don't just support them, they support them. Like they're on high salaries. They're on professional athlete $1 million a year salaries.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like that. Maybe Switzerland said, hey, we'll give you, and I'm just throwing it out there. I have no idea. They may have said, hey, we'll give you $1 million a year if you represent Switzerland. So it's going to, and I look, in that case, I don't blame him.
Well, you look at the gal from St. Lucia that won the 100. And I think it was the second medal in the history of St. Lucia. Now, do you not think that she is now the queen of St. Lucia? The entire island was watching that race.
No doubt.
Where is she from? I think she's from Texas. She raced it somewhere in Texas, I think. So,
but I guess, my take on the flip side of that is this boy from Louisiana. Hey, man, you're Boudin Cracklin product, dude. you got your success eating Boudin Cracklins, represent Louisiana, represent the United States.
Well, but he's been off of Boudin for a while. If he can get over that bar, I'll tell you.
Oh, you're right. Let me tell you this. Pole vaulting is just something that I can even relate to. Somebody in my build, I can't even relate to pole vaulting. Yeah. I can't relate to anything in the Olympics. But
I'd snap that pole right in half if I try to get my big ass over that thing.
I can't even. That's something I can't even fathom.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, speaking of the money game in the Olympics, did you know that athletes get taxed on the value of the gold and the silver and the bronze medals they win?
See, that's ridiculous because they're not selling. If they sell it,
no, just like when our athletes bring the medals back to the U.S., they'll have to claim that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
how long that's been going on?
Apparently for quite a while. I just learned about it this time around.
Sounds like some Democrat shit to me. They're going to guarantee they'll be taxed even more if these two circus clowns get in office.
Well, maybe that's why they have to pay them the amount of money for the medal. It's to offset the taxes.
Yep.
So, Tommy, we're going to let you get back to your chitter therapy.
Your hygiene.
Yes.
So what you got to close? What you got on closing tonight, Joe?
Oh boy, it's a look and see, man. It's going to be an interesting ride for the next 2 months. So we'll see what's happening. So I think they're going to learn a whole lot about some candidates here in the real near future.
I agree. What about you, Tommy?
Well, I'll leave you with two things. This is my first fully nude podcast, and and second of all, there you go. That's an image you cannot get out of your head now. Yeah, second of all, if you want to see a refreshing Democrat, watch Bill Maher on YouTube. Just pull up some of his clips and while he attacks the Democrats for their wokeness, it is so refreshing.
I don't know what happened to him. He was the worst, but he's had enough of them too.
He has. Totally has. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, well, my closing is pretty much how we began. We got to get in the game. We have skin in the game, so we need to get in the game. And it's going to be an interesting couple months. And I think when it's all said and done, I heard Kamala took a little jump in the polls this week. That's not a big deal.
I don't worry about that. Hey,
them two clowns have you guys start debating, and it's going to be fine.
Have you ever been called to answer a poll?
Yes.
Really?
All the time.
Sir,
I'm shocked. I don't know a single Republican.
I'm sure y'all are too, but I'm assuming it's because I'm such a chronic voter. I vote if there's just dog catcher on the ballot. I vote.
I vote too, but you know what? I've never been called for a poll, and I don't know a single friend who has been called who's a Republican. I know Democrat friends that have been, but not Republicans.
Now, I haven't been on national. Now, I have getting a lot of polls. It's these text polls. It's just, but it's not. It's really more of a bias deal. It's and it's because and that's going to be because I'm a Republican donor. I give $35 a month to a Republican PAC, and that's why I get I get flooded. I want to cancel it just because I get flooded with all these texts.
Yeah.
But as far as these legitimate polls, no, I haven't on national level, but local, regional, all the time.
Oh yeah, well I'm talking about national level.
No,
like
no,
to ask how you feel about whether you'd vote for, Harris or Trump or any of these people. I've never been polled. Is because we're conservatives.
Well, I wrote down some notes, just I guess because I was bored. Not that anybody cares what I think, but I wrote down a strategy. What I feel like that Trump, I'm gonna release it tomorrow night on Wine Wednesday. What I feel like if Trump, what he needs to do to win. Just a preview on that. We shot what happens too much with candidates, and he can get drawn into dumb shit like her race, and who cares about all that?
Right.
And quit shotgunning and go. You got to go sniper on these things. There's two things that matter to people, and that's immigration and the economy. And both of them are wide ass open disasters. So you can attack those. So I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow night.
That would be good.
But until tomorrow night, McGee, Wells, and Collins are